This is my video update from Larnaca, Cyprus, June 22nd. Right now I am at the Salt Lake in Larnaca, and we'll walk up this way and we'll make our way to Mackenzie Beach. So let's talk about some news and what is going on in the world today. And we have Joe Bidenopoulos, Greece's favorite son. Have to be careful crossing here. Calling Xi Jinping a dictator. This is a median with palm trees. I love it. A beautiful median. So it didn't take long from when Blinken was in Beijing, and he kind of talked up some sort of US-China rapprochement, or at least it looked like the relationship between China and the US was getting just a little bit better, just a little bit. The Chinese authorities, they welcomed Blinken to Beijing, and they gave him a good dressing down. They basically told Blinken, look, your administration, the Biden White House, they're all talk and no action. They talk about how they want good relations with China. They talk about peace. They talk about trade. But then they turn around and they curse us and they threaten us and they talk about war and conflict in and around Taiwan. And so the Chinese, they told Blinken, look, enough of your broken promises, enough of the BS. Go back to the US, go back to your boss, Mr. Biden, and tell him that talk is cheap. We want action. We want you to show us that you're ready for peace, that you're ready to trade, that you're ready to talk about our differences, and we can stop talking about all this nonsense about war and Taiwan and all of these things. So that was pretty much the message that the Chinese delivered to Blinken. So Blinken, he really didn't have a good time in Beijing, but at least there was some dialogue that was opened between the U.S. and China. This right here is a monument to the fallen Greek soldiers in Cyprus during the 1974 Turkish invasion. So so Blinken, he goes back to DC, and there's a little bit of hope that maybe we've averted some sort of smash between China and the USA, and maybe, just maybe, the US and China can start talking to each other instead of threatening each other. Well, it took about 24 hours before Joe Bidenopoulos smashed all of that. Smashed it to pieces. Boom. That was Joe Bidenopoulos. He was at some sort of campaign event in California. And let me find what Biden said during this campaign event. Here we go. Biden discussed the row over the balloon at a fundraiser in California on Tuesday, suggesting the incursion was unintentional, even while stating that the craft was designed for espionage. He said the mishap blindsided Chinese officials, including Xi. Quote, the reason why Xi Jinping got very upset in terms of when I shot that balloon down with 2 boxcars full of spy equipment in it was he didn't know it was there, Biden said. That's a great embarrassment for dictators when they didn't know what happened. That wasn't supposed to be going where it was. It was blown off course. So Biden, he destroyed all of Blinken's work in Beijing, if you want to call it work in Beijing. He destroyed any chance of rapprochement over the stupid balloon story. He had to be the tough guy. He had to talk about how he's the one that smashed the balloon. He shot down the spy balloon with 2 boxcars full of spy equipment. And he had to call Xi Jinping a dictator. Boy, oh boy. Joe Biden is without a doubt the worst, the absolute worst foreign policy U.S. president. I mean, he's the worst diplomat that has ever existed. That's Joe Biden. And that's going to be my clown world today, so just keep that in mind. Joe Biden is the worst U.S. president in all of history when it comes to diplomacy and foreign policy, the absolute worst. He obviously does not like Xi Jinping. That's why he keeps on calling him a dictator. This is not the first time he's called Xi Jinping a dictator. It's not going to be the last. He said this on purpose. He wanted to blow apart the possibility of some sort of dialogue or rapprochement with China. So he intentionally said that. The reason that I claim this was intentional and this wasn't some, Joe Biden, oh gosh, golly, gee shucks, gaffe, is because the White House actually has this statement in their readout of the event. So that means that the Biden White House wants the Chinese to read this. They want this to be on record, that Biden at an event in California called Xi Jinping a dictator and talked about how he shot down the balloon. Yeah, the balloon was a great victory for Biden. It wasn't an embarrassment. It wasn't a debacle. It was a great victory for Joe Biden because he shot it down. And Xi Jinping, he had no idea what was going on. What happened to my balloon? Oh my God, what did Biden do? Did he shoot down my balloon? Biden, you're the man. You're the man, Biden, shooting down balloons, weather balloons, spy balloons, whatever. Fields of Gold. This reminds me of the Sting song, Fields of Gold. So, yeah, they put it in the readout. They put it in the readout, this statement, which means that this was not some mess up. This wasn't a Biden gaffe. He wanted this on the record. His White House wanted this on the record. So, yeah, Biden, the neocons, they don't want rapprochement with China. What's Blinken thinking? Even though it was the U.S. State Department that begged China for this trip and for a meeting with Blinken. They begged China, please meet with Blinken. We'll fly to you. Please talk to Blinken. Meet with him. They begged for this meeting, and within 24 hours, the neocons, of which Blinken is a part of, he's a neo-lib, but there's really not much difference anymore. But, the neocons, the Biden White House, they blow up all of the work that took place over the past couple of days in Beijing. Well done. Well done, Biden. Also, he could brag about shooting down a weather balloon and call Xi a dictator. Right. Xi Jinping's the dictator. Because it's Xi Jinping that's trying to extradite Julian Assange. And it's Xi Jinping that's waging a proxy war, a NATO proxy war against Russia. And it's Xi Jinping that has the J6 protesters locked up without any charges. And it's Xi Jinping that is going after his political opponents and weaponizing the Justice Department. That's all. That's Xi Jinping. And it's Xi Jinping's son who commits tax fraud and and is illegally carrying firearms or tosses firearms into trash cans, and has a laptop with all kinds of stuff that, you know, we can't even talk about because it's so, you know, what can you say? That's Xi Jinping. That's the dictator Xi Jinping. That's not Biden. No, that's not Biden. Biden is a man of the people, democratically elected president of the United States, man of the people. That's Joe Bidenopoulos. Oh boy, so China was furious, and the Chinese foreign ministry spokeswoman, let me see if I have this this quote. I believe she's this Chinese foreign ministry spokeswoman, Mao Ning. She described the remarks as extremely absurd, adding that they seriously violated China's political dignity. She said that such statements also violate diplomatic etiquette and contradict basic facts. It's an open political provocation, Mao stressed. Well done, Joe Biden. Well done. The worst foreign policy diplomat president of all time. that is Joe Biden. That's going to be my clown world too, so keep that in mind. So Putin, he was at an event for cadets, for military, I believe army cadets or Navy cadets, I'm not sure. But he was at this event and he talked about the big counteroffensive that is in some sort of operational pause. Actually, the Ukraine military, they tried again to break through in the Zaporozhye region, and it didn't go too well, but they keep on trying to break through in that Orekov, Zaporozhye area, and they just keep on losing men, weapons, tanks, but they keep on trying. So Putin was speaking at this event, and Putin talked about the losses that the Ukraine government has incurred. Here we go. For a minute there, I thought I didn't have the article saved. So they're building a lot of apartment complexes here. And the Mackenzie area in Larnaca and in Cyprus, I think, is one of the nicest areas. It really is a pretty cool place if you're lucky enough to live in this area. So this is what Putin said, and he was speaking. I'm trying to see where he was speaking on Wednesday. I'll find it. I will find it. Putin said, thanks to the courage and heroism of our soldiers and the readiness of commanders to repulse any aggressive actions against Russia, it seems to me that the enemy has no chance. They understand this, which is why they stopped, as he was talking about this operational pause. He told this to journalist Pavel Zarubin at the Kremlin. The Ukraine military launched its long-heralded offensive on June the 4th, using several brigades trained in the West and equipped with Leopard tanks and Bradley armored vehicles, among others. Putin said, oddly enough, it is a slow burn at the moment because the enemy is sustaining serious personnel and equipment losses. Putin said, as of early this morning, our men had taken out 245 tanks and about 678 armored vehicles of various types, to say nothing of the enemy's casualties, which are substantial. Kiev forces are currently in the process of rebuilding their brigades, which took serious losses, Putin explained, but fear that taking more casualties at this rate will eliminate the combat capability of not just their strategic reserve, but their entire military. At this moment, Putin said, offensive operations are not ongoing, only elements of combat such as shelling and reconnaissance in force. Retired General Andrei Kartapolov, who commanded the Russian expedition in Syria in 2016 and 17, has also estimated that Ukraine will exhaust its offensive capability by the end of June at this rate, with 40% of its forces in the theater already rendered combat ineffective. So 245 tanks have been taken out, according to Putin. 245 tanks. Now, Ukraine has stated on the record, including the Leopards and the Challengers and the tanks that the collective West have provided them, that they have a total of 800 tanks. That's their total. And Putin claims that 245 of those tanks have been taken out. And what did Ukraine gain? Nothing. Like nothing. They've even been rolled back in BITCHUTE, this one area where they were celebrating that they have taken this village of empty dachas, and they were celebrating this. They've even been rolled back from there. The 5 houses area that I talked about in a video a couple of days ago. They've lost all of these men and these weapons and tanks and Bradleys and Leopards. They've lost all of these things in 2 weeks, and they have gained zero movement. Even Elensky had to admit to the BBC that things are not going well. So you could see the beach way out there, and over here is the airport. So you can probably see the airport as well from here. We'll walk over. We'll make our way over there. So Elensky gave an interview to the BBC, and he had to admit that things are going not so good. Not so good is what Elensky said. Ukrainian President Elensky has admitted that the long-promised counteroffensive against Russian forces has not delivered the results that some Western observers expected. Amid mounting losses, Elensky insisted that he would not discuss peace with Moscow. Quote, "Some people believe this is a Hollywood movie and expect results now. It's not," he told the BBC on Wednesday, admitting that advances by Ukrainian troops have been slower than desired. "Whatever some might want, including attempts to pressure us, with all due respect, we will advance on the battlefield the way we deem best," he added. That is quite an admission from Elensky. It's pretty interesting that he says some people believe this is a Hollywood movie and expect results now. I wonder who talked this up to Hollywood movie levels. Who turned this entire conflict into a Hollywood movie? Who? What comedian, clown, puppet leader and his gang of producers and scriptwriters from his TV show that he once had? What was it? Kvartal 24, whatever it was called, with Kolomoisky. Who was the guy? Who was the administration that turned this into a Hollywood movie? And now he is going to the BBC and he's saying this is not a Hollywood movie. Don't expect Hollywood movie gains. The great Kherson counteroffensive and the great Kharkiv counteroffensive and the Ghost of Kiev and Snake Island. And of course, we have the siege of Kiev that everyone in the collective West continues to talk about. The siege of Kiev, where the Russians tried to take over Kiev, a city of 3 million people with 40,000 soldiers, and the Ukraine military demolished them. And Putin had to pull back, and it was the biggest defeat ever delivered onto to Putin's military, the siege of Kiev. And they used that siege of Kiev Hollywood script to fool the collective West into believing that they should escalate this conflict because they can indeed defeat Russia and defeat Putin and cause regime change. And this guy is going to the BBC saying, this not Hollywood movie. Why you make this like Hollywood movie? Not Hollywood movie. This not Hollywood movie. We are going to gain territory as we wish. Don't pressure us, please. Don't pressure us. By the way, BBC, maybe your channel have maybe $1 billion to give me. Maybe accounting error. Maybe you can do accounting error. Pentagon do this and I get 6 billion. Maybe BBC do accounting error and give me billion. I buy many homes in London. The siege of Kiev. And Putin held up the document where we were so close to a peace deal until Boris Johnson flew to Kiev and blew that up in much the same way that Biden is now smashing up any type of rapprochement with China. And Putin said, I pulled back the troops. That was my goodwill gesture. And what did I get for it? I got some Hollywood script about the siege of Kiev and how our military is being defeated. And let's escalate some more. So that's Elensky. That's his interview to the BBC. This counteroffensive is going so badly for Ukraine. This is such a disaster that, according to Der Spiegel, Ukrainian tank crews are faking malfunctions on their tanks to justify not going into combat against Russian forces. This is what Der Spiegel is reporting. Unbelievable. The magazine spoke of 3 German-trained tank Ukrainian troops who were among the crew of 2 Leopard 2A6 tanks provided to Kiev by the Bundeswehr. The report cites a loader nicknamed Gustik, who claimed that some crews fake technical malfunctions to avoid being sent to the front line. He reportedly told the magazine that dodging an engagement altogether was better than entering combat, only to pull out after the first shot. Another said he didn't blame those who are refusing. If they hit the turret, you're a heap of ashes, a man identified as Misha told Spiegel. Even Der Spiegel, even German media, which is some of the worst media, even they are reporting that things are going really, really bad for the Elensky regime and the Ukraine military in this counteroffensive. So what options are left now for the Ukraine military, for the Elensky regime, for the neocons? Well, Elensky gave his TikTok, Instagram video message yesterday evening, and what did Elensky say? That the Russians are going to blow up the ZNPP, the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. So Elensky said last week to NBC News that the Russians are going to blow up the ZNPP. That was last week. We had AI-generated android robot Budanov, who made an appearance the other day, and he said that Russia is going to blow up the ZNPP. And now we have Elensky again, yesterday evening, saying what? Saying that the Russians are going to blow up the ZNPP. I wonder what Ukraine is going to do. The only thing they have left to do, in my opinion, this is all the neocons can do, this is all that the Elensky regime can do, and that is to cause a false flag. I don't know if it'll be the ZNPP. It looks like the ZNPP is on their mind. It's occupying their thoughts, that's for sure, but it could be the ZNPP. They tried to hit with Storm Shadow missiles a bridge that connects Crimea to Kherson. Minimal damage, no casualties, but it could be a strike on Crimea. Could be a strike inside of Russia, perhaps Moscow, these areas as well. But all they have left is some sort of provocation, false flag, something. Nuland and Sullivan, they're traveling to Copenhagen, and they're going to be holding, like, I guess the best way to explain it is like an open invitation summit. Maybe you can call it like an open mic. And I don't know those girls, by the way, but they see someone filming, and I guess they got happy, excited. Anyway, Sullivan and Nuland, they're going to be holding an open mic meeting in Copenhagen, and they've invited China, South Africa, Turkey, I believe India. They basically invited the BRICS countries, Brazil, but without Russia, and the purpose, and Turkey as well. And the purpose of this is to talk about how Russia is evil and how they need to turn on Russia and side with the neocons. That's the purpose of this open mic meeting. So, you know, they're going to put the diplomatic pressure. Maria Zakharova also said that the Biden White House is putting all kinds of diplomatic pressure on CSTO nations, former Soviet republics, and countries in Eurasia, and Armenia and Azerbaijan, and all of these countries. A lot of pressure is being put on them diplomatically, with a lot of threats, so they can turn on Russia. You're going to have this meeting in Copenhagen with Sullivan and Nuland, so they can try to have these countries turn on Russia. And then you have the false flag thing that's cooking up in the minds of Elensky and AI android generated Budanov. So false flag, a provocation, and then trying to threaten countries or convince countries that Putin did it, and Putin blew up the pipeline, and Putin blew up the dam, and now Putin blew up the power plant or whatever, or Putin sent missiles into the Kremlin or whatever. They're going to cook up, because this is all they have left. This is all they have left. And that's what's happening. And, you know, they blew up Nord Stream. So these people are pretty sinister. I don't think they'd have a problem with the ZNPP if you consider that they took out German infrastructure. My channel, Alex Christoforou. All right, where are you from? Ireland. Awesome, man. I've been to Dublin. Yeah? Ireland's fantastic. You like Cyprus? So, it's always great to meet people from Ireland. Fantastic people. Let's see. So, yeah, that's the option that's left. False flag, provocation, something like that. And they're putting a lot of diplomatic pressure, Sullivan and Nuland. Look, Nuland wants to escalate. She wants conflict. Sullivan, sure he wants conflict, but Sullivan is more concerned about keeping this thing going at least until the elections. So they both have different interests. Nuland wants nuclear war and complete chaos and destruction. Sullivan's just like, I want to re-elect Biden for another 4 years, but the goal is the same, to keep this thing going, to keep this conflict going, and to prevent Russia from winning and preventing the Elensky regime from collapsing. And there's a lot of talk now about the Biden White House soon to be providing ATACMS to Ukraine, long-range missiles. So that's going to happen very soon. We've talked about this on the Duran on this channel. It's going to come as no surprise that the ATACMS are going to be coming. And then you have the F-16s. And CNN, they read an article talking about how pilots are going to be trained in Romania for the F-16s. So it looks like Romania is going to try to get pulled into this conflict. I don't know how the people of Romania are going to feel about this, but when they say that Romania is going to train the F-16 pilots, well then, that most certainly means that the F-16s are going to take off from Romania. And I said this in a video a couple of days ago. The problem for the Russians is not the F-16s. Everyone knows that's not going to be a wonder weapon, and that's not going to make a difference. The Russians are going to deal with the F-16s. The problem is that Russia is going to perhaps they're going to target the airfields where these F-16s take off from. And Putin said this at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. They're going to have to take a look at where these F-16s take off from, and well, where they take off from is a party to the conflict, and the Russians are going to have to deal with that. So it looks like Romania may be that country that the F-16s are going to take off from. And the purpose of all of this for the neocons, and I said this in a video that I did here in Larnaca a few days back, the purpose of all of this F-16 thing is not for the F-16s. Everyone knows the F-16s are not going to make the difference. The purpose of the F-16s is to bait Russia into attacking an airfield in Eastern Europe so that the neocons can draw NATO into this conflict, because NATO gives them the chance to perhaps win this conflict, perhaps, even though I doubt that, but at least it gives the neocons a chance, and it gives Sullivan the chance to keep this conflict going. NATO intervention. And so you have these F-16s take off from Romania or Poland. It looks like Romania is going to be the country, and you dare Russia to hit at that airfield. If you're the neocon, you say, okay, Russia, go for it. We've crossed another red line. What are you going to do about it? We've got F-16s taking off from Romania and attacking Russia and launching missiles into Crimea. What are you going to do about it? You know, they're daring Russia to cross that red line and to escalate even further. I think the Russians will find a way to handle this. I think the Putin administration will find a way to deal with the F-16s, deal with the airfields where they're taking off from, while not escalating this. That's what I think is going to happen. Shoigu gave out a warning the other day, and he said that if the collective West, the US and the UK, if they strike Russian territory, including Crimea, Russia's going to retaliate immediately. And from what I understand, Russia already took out one command center with US and UK officers in that command center, and there's 3 or 4 more command centers all around Ukraine. Russia knows the location of these command centers, and they're basically telling the US and the UK, if you continue to try to hit Russian territory, we're just going to start picking off these command centers with US and UK commanders there who are, you know, they're in Ukraine and they're planning the war, which is kind of incredible that Russia has known about these command centers with US and UK commanders, these people that are actually planning the conflict with Russia. They're in Ukraine. They know where these command centers are located, but Russia has shown restraint and has not gone after these decision-making centers. Most likely there was some sort of backroom deal between Russia and the United States and NATO, where NATO probably said, look, we're going to have our commanders in Ukraine and they're going to be helping out. Don't hit them, and in return, we're not going to give them weapons that can hit Russia and strike at Russia, and we're not going to hit at Russia, Crimea, and we're going to manage this conflict, right? That was probably the deal that they made way back when, and that deal has been shattered, obviously. So that was Shoigu's warning. Anyway, let's do a clown world, and we'll wrap this video up. You know, I have to go a little bit into the water since I'm here. Into the water. That's my New York accent coming through from New York. And we'll do a clown world from the water. This is Aegean, Greek airline, Aegean, flying into Larnaca. If you're a windsurfer or a sailor, then this is the place for you. This is the place for you. We've got really good windsurfing, good sailing, and you get good wind here. So it's paradise if you're into sailing or windsurfing. So let's do a clown world, and we'll wrap this video up. I hope this video didn't go on too long. Let me see here. Okay, we're good. We're good. So I talked about Biden being the worst diplomat in all of history, the worst foreign policy president in all of history. Well, Biden doesn't think so. He actually compared himself to Kissinger, and I don't know if that's if you want to be comparing yourself to Kissinger, but Biden compared himself to Kissinger. He said, I'm going to say something, it's a quote from Biden, I'm going to say something outrageous. I think I know as much about American foreign policy as anybody living, including Dr. Kissinger, Biden said during an event in Atherton, California on Monday. That's what I've done my whole life for the last 207 years, he joked. The comedy in all of this is that everyone knows he's the worst foreign policy president ever. He has no idea what's going on, and when he does know what's going on, all he does is make gaffes and blunders and mistakes of epic proportion, mistakes that are destroying the United States of America. But in his mind, he actually thinks he's the best foreign policy guy ever. And even funnier than that is that you have politicians in Europe, the entire EU political class, the government in Canada, Trudeau, the government in Australia, the entire collective West, they actually follow this guy and his foreign policy decisions and plots and schemes. They actually believe that Biden is a foreign policy master. Oh boy, if you don't laugh, you cry. If you don't laugh, you cry. So in Biden's mind, he's a foreign policy guru, a wizard, a foreign policy Jedi. That is Biden in his mind. In his mind. The rest of the world, 80% of the world, not in the collective West, Biden hates them and they hate Biden. Biden hates MBS and Erdogan and Putin and Xi and Ramaphosa, everyone. He hates all of them. And Modi, he hates everybody. That's not in the collective West. And the collective West, they don't particularly like Biden either. I can name off 5 world leaders right now that absolutely despise Biden and they don't hide it. Putin, okay. Putin, Xi, Modi, Erdogan, MBS, Netanyahu. The list goes on and on and on and on. So that's where we are in the world today, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, and Rockfin. Go to the Duran shop, pick up a Duran hat. This is the flag of Greece. And what else? Free Assange, free Gonzalo. There's an operation that the Russians appear to be conducting in Kharkiv. So I don't know. Maybe that could be a way to free Gonzalo. Who knows? Who knows what's going on there? But the Russians are advancing in Kharkiv as well. And if you like this channel, I don't say this often, but since I've remembered to say this, if you like this channel, hit the like. If you don't like this channel, hit the dislike. If you want to subscribe to this channel, please subscribe. Take care.